50s. He was a retired colonel. They weren't rich, but she knew that I was short of money for the operation, and so she just gave me $3,000 and said, it's okay, you don't have to pay me back. I'm not saying that happened because I was tithing. I'm just saying that I feel like because I was dealing fairly with God in that relationship, there's a certain spirit connected to you. And so if I had to say there was any financial benefit to tithing, I'd say it's in opportunity. Just fortune just seems to improve. And actually, when I was in Korea for a while, because I wasn't really legal there, I was on a tourist visa, so I wasn't supposed to teach. So it wasn't easy to find teaching jobs. And for a long time, I was struggling to make ends meet. And I started tithing, and within a year or so, I had a surplus in my bank. Not a lot of money, but you know, a few million won. And before that, I'd always been like just making ends meet every week. I just got more teaching jobs, and of course, then I had to make my effort too and work harder to take advantage of them. But I just feel like it wasn't a coincidence that I started tithing and that change happened in my life. And maybe we might feel, you know, after I transitioned also from the church center to just home life, so many years went by when I didn't tithe. That can build a certain amount of momentum, and you can get into a rut, and you can feel like, well, even if I do start tithing now, what's the point? Because I've got all this debt with God, or all this back history of not tithing. But I think, instead of thinking like that, just draw a line between you and the past, and just think about moving forward. So I really feel like God, when you have the attitude, God can just forgive and forget in that sense. I feel like when we have that sincerity, it moves God's mind, and even God is unable to resist like an overpowering urge to just forgive us and forget about that, and just also think about the future and moving forward. So when I tithe, I used to do this when I was MFT. Tithing itself, as I said, is not an offering. It's just dealing fairly with God. But the way in which we tithe, our comportment, can be a form of worship. So when we tithe, I feel like choosing, you know, if I've got a bunch of notes, you know, £5, £10, £20, I go through and I look for the most crisp, newish looking ones, and I fold them out. You could even iron them if you want to, and put them all with the Queen's face up, and put them in a really nice envelope. And I think tithing is, the attitude we have is really, really almost as important as tithing. Because if we tithe with reluctance and misery, I feel like, oh God, give this money. I feel like it impacts the way God feels about that. When I was first in the church for a while, I was a working member. I was working in Queensway in Pizzaland. And frankly speaking, the manager was a bit of an ass. And he used to lord it over us, and he thought it was like his great little kingdom. And he was quite immature. So when payday came around every week, he would shake his head and taunt, and he would make us feel almost guilty for accepting our salary. And so I kind of remembered that, and I thought about when we tithe, if we're very reluctant and feeling negative about it, then, you know, God might feel the same way as I felt when the manager was, you know, I've worked hard all week, so I deserve that money. So I feel like a company manager should be grateful to his employees. And so when we tithe, I think it's better to do it with joy, even if it is difficult. So just to recap, I'd just like to read Father's words again, the same ones that I read. By offering a tithe from your material possessions to God, you can establish a condition equal to having offered all that you have. Even if you do not offer everything to God, offering a portion of it with all your heart and mind will enable the rest to be considered holy. The person who tithes will never perish. As days go by, his storage room will be filled with more material blessings. I believe that, and I've experienced it. So I'm not here to judge anybody and say you have to start tithing, but it's clear that in our movement, tithing is I think maybe less than 20%, and I feel like our movement and our communities, especially like a North London local community, could do much more if members see the community as our community. We don't belong to the church, and this community doesn't belong to the worldwide church. It's serving the same goal and purpose, but this community belongs to us. This is our community. all your children belong to this community. And you guys have an amazing Sunday school here, for example. And so I feel like, I would say, quit donating and start tithing. Might get in trouble for that, right? But it's better to start with a stable, regular, consistent way, like that tithing. And then, when your fortune improves and you feel moved, then when you ask to donate, then you can sometimes donate. And if you can't, just say, no, I can't donate, I haven't got any extra money. And I think God will accept that. So I'd just like to encourage you to, anyway, think about it and pray about that. And I know it's difficult. It was really difficult for me. It took me a year to make a choice. But I was glad I did, and I feel like my life improved because of it. And my relationship to God, which is even more important, improved. And I've never looked back. Sometimes it's been difficult, sometimes easier, but I always make sure when I tithe with joy, and I feel really good afterwards. But that money was never mine anyway. And I give it to God. It's almost like a relief. You know, it's a relief that I'll find it, put it in the tithe donation box, and when it's done, I don't have to worry about it, whether I might accidentally spend it myself. So thanks for listening, and please pray about that, think about it, and I'll finish with a prayer. Okay?